Hey, and welcome to River City Online. We're excited to have you join us today. As we get started, please take a moment to say hi in the chat and let us know that you are here. Hey, and welcome to River City Online. We're excited to have you join us today. As we get started, please take a moment to say hi in the chat and let us know that you are here. We anticipate that we will experience God's presence today as we worship together. So feel free to connect with your host anytime and ask for prayer. We hope you have a great day.
The sky is dark, but I will not have fear. The walls closing, I feel surrounded, but I know you're near. I will praise you in the valley, worship through the storm, give thanks forever. Your love endures. You alone are God. You alone are good. Let all the earth sing praise to you alone. You fill my life with adoration in the midst of enemy. You lavish me as your child, overflow me with your grace. I will praise you in the valley, worship through the storm, give thanks forever. Your love endures. You alone are God. You alone are good. Let all the earth sing praise to you alone. You alone. You alone are God. You alone are good. Let all the earth sing praise to you alone. Oh, to you alone. Just proclaim this. I'm not alone. I will not be downtrodden. You give me strength to face my world. I'm not alone. I will not be downtrodden. I will not be downtrodden. You give me strength to face my world.
Kevin and I meet every Monday, and he said, "Hey, are you ready to preach?" And I love to preach, and I'm like, "Bring it. What do you want me to preach on?" He goes, "Well, you know, we're in this emotionally healthy spirituality, and I want you to preach on chapter 5, which is grief and loss and pain." And he says, I want you to use the book of Job as your text. And I'm like, no, you don't read the book of Job. There's a couple things you don't do. You don't pull the mask off the Lone Ranger. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pray for patience. For goodness sakes, never pray for patience. And you don't read the book of Job. You stay away from the book of Job. Now, you know I'm kidding. But there's a part of me that, because Kevin's in Canada, we'll just go a different direction, like maybe preach on the 5 love languages. That would be fun. But no, we're going to do chapter 5, which is Enlarge Your Soul. Another way I'd like to put it is enlarge your heart, love better, love more perfectly through grief and loss. And then the tagline is surrender to your limits. So here we go. You're going to have pain. You just are. And you're going to have loss. You're going to grieve. We act like it's such an intruder. It's so unique to our lives, but in reality, if we get real, it's just a part of life. You're going to have losses. You're going to lose a lot of things in your lifetime. You just are. And there's a good way to deal with that, and there's a bad way. You know, will your way of dealing with pain management, when things come, will it just destroy you? I mean, we've all seen people that loss and grief and pain, it makes them bitter, not better. You know, where are you in that? Did it crush you? Are you still crushed? Or has it created an opportunity for you to enlarge your ability to love? And so the reason why the book of Job is so good in this, and yes, I did enter into the book of Job. Job is an amazing example of how to grieve God's way. And if we grieve God's way, then we'll never be the same. It will change us in all the best kind of ways. So let's dive into this. Let's talk about grief and loss and pain. We all have our defense mechanisms. We all have a way of trying to find a spiritual way or our way to get around the grief, to get around loss, to get around the pain. We might be in denial. What a beautiful place to be. We want to be clueless, because if we're clueless, we don't have to deal with anything. And all of us can go there. We're just in denial. It's not happening. I'm not going to go there. And we pretend. And we get sicker and sicker is what happens. We minimize the problem. We minimize the loss, the grief, the pain. It's not that bad. You know, it's just not that bad. We blame others. You know, if I would have had better coaches, I would have been in the NFL as a quarterback. If my wife, Susan, was a better wife, I could have gone way deeper into leadership and ministry. That's a lie. That is a big lie. Justification. I love this one because I'm really good at justification. Well, because of this and that, and let's just look at the good stuff I do. Let's don't look at the bad stuff that what you're dealing with. Let's just justify our avoidance. Let's just justify us pretending. We are so good at justification. We intellectualize it. We bring facts and figures, and we don't get into emotions. It is what it is. It is what it is. Distraction. Oh my goodness. Just stay busy. Stay busy. If I stay busy, I don't have to think about it. And so we just go 90 miles an hour. We just have all kinds of tasks and events we're involved in, and we just don't slow down. And if we don't slow down, we don't have to think about our grief or our loss or our pain. And we get mad. We get really, really mad. I'm one of those guys that I'm pretty low key, and it builds up, and I'm like that pressure cooker, and then it's like, wah! And I get really, really mad. And let me tell you, that really works in dealing with pain and loss and grief. Getting mad is the best way to do it. And I'm tongue-in-cheek here. It really throws a whole bunch of garbage on top of an already big problem. But we have our defenses. We have our ways of trying to get out of this thing called grief and loss and pain. I knew I was going to preach on this about 3 weeks before today. And I began to interview people. As a pastor, I have probably done over 250 celebration of life services. I don't like to call them funerals because they really are a celebration of life. But I have gotten a front row seat in people's pain, their grief, and their loss. I started to interview people as I knew I was going to preach to you today. I began to ask people that had tremendous losses. How'd you get through it? What were you feeling? Give me some advice to give to people of how to deal with this. And one of my friends lost her husband, just absolutely dropped dead from the Widowmaker, the heart attack at work. I mean, he was gone before he ever hit the ground. He was only 55 years old, and Sue and I, our friend, it's like our best friend, and we walked through that with her. But we can't get it. We don't know what she's gone through. But she said one of the things that she deals with is shame. When you lose somebody just instantly, and just have no clue it's coming, one of the things you deal with is shame. Another person who had lost a husband to cancer said, it's so final. I'll never, ever have somebody who adores me the way my husband adored me. I'll never get that back again. One widow told me that she became invisible, and she knew that she could never bring to her church what she did when she was a couple. She talked about being a fifth wheel. And it's just so hard to go through death and loss like that. And what I've seen, though, in all those people is they've come out on the other end better people. They've come out on the other end able to love deeper, love more intimately. It's humbling to listen to their stories. Because really, you have to be honest, and you have to say, I can't relate to losing my spouse. I can't relate to losing a child. But I sure am sorry. Sometimes we say, the thing we can only say is, I'm really sorry, and I'm praying for you, and I love you, and I love you. And we think that might be the magic words to help them, and we need to say that, but I'm not sure they're the magic words. But we have defense mechanisms. You know how somebody will say to you, hey, how are you? and you put on that smile, you put on that, I'm good. And what if they were to say, how are you really? So just right now, as you're listening to me, let me ask you, how are you? How are you really? Are you in denial? Is your defense mechanisms all kicking in? If you were to get real and authentic, how are you really? Think about that. Because if we don't deal with our grief, if we don't deal with our loss, if we don't deal with our pain, it builds up in us and we think we're doing good, but we leak. It's going to come out somewhere. If we don't process this, the way Job processed it. Job, again, is a really good example of how to process pain, grief, and loss. We leak. We become passive aggressive. We become cranky. We become sarcastic. We just leak. Are you leaking? Or are you stepping into your pain? Let me say that again. Are you stepping into your pain? Wow. That is so counterintuitive. What we want to do in our pain is we want to get numb. That's my first thought, is how can I get relief from this pain? And really the whole kingdom of God is really turns our world, this culture, this society, it just turns it upside down. And rather than numb your pain, what God is asking you to do is step into the pain or stay in the pain. But that isn't what our culture teaches us. Our culture teaches us you can get rid of the pain, and you can get rid of the pain like right now. And you can take a pill, you can do this activity, just avoid pain, numb pain. And I think we have to be honest and say that our pain management, because of our upbringing, because of what we've been taught, like one example is you don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. There's an invisible rule in some families, maybe your families, you just don't talk about that. You don't process that. You pretend it never happened. And then what happens is you leak or you run to things that will numb your pain. I love to watch funny dog videos on Facebook, and the more you watch them, the more you get. They know what you're watching, and they'll send you more funny dog videos. And one of the ones that I saw reminded me of kind of my pain management style is this dog is at the vet or the groomer, and he's going to get his nails trimmed, and they've got a hold of him, and the nail trimmer is coming towards his foot, and it's like 8 inches away, and he is screaming like they are cutting his leg off. And I had to laugh because I can relate to that. We don't manage our pain very well. And so what I'm hoping is this story of Job will help you and me deal much better with our pain management. So are you leaking? What are you going to numb your pain? This is where addictions just implode. We become addicted to drugs and alcohol. We become addicted to the TV. We become addicted to food. We all have a coping mechanism that we go to. And here's what we say. And maybe you don't hear yourself saying it, but you hear a lot of people saying it. I just need a little something to take the edge off. And so one of the number one ways that people deal with pain, grief, and loss in our culture today is through addiction. And it's rampant. And one of the things that you need to know is that when you become addicted, your growth stops. it absolutely snuffs out any emotional, healthy, spiritual growth. It just cuts it off. Let me explain. If somebody begins to drink at age 18, that becomes their coping mechanism, their way to deal with pain, loss, grief. And then what happens is they just numb their heart and they numb their brain through alcohol, and they become addicted to alcohol. And then drugs are introduced. So now they're drinking and using, and now they're 40 years old. It's gotten so bad that they had to get help. So they go into a rehab center, a good one, one that maybe lasts 2 years. See, we want quick fixes. We want to go for 21 days. A 21-day rehab center, and that's the world's way, is just quick fix. Want to get rid of this pain quickly. 21 days. The relapse is like 96% if you go to a rehab for 21, 31 days. I'll just say it. They don't work. They might detox somebody. They might get them sober. You're a loved one. You get to sleep really good for 21 days, but they don't work because they're a quick fix. Well, let's say you get a great program like UGM, and it's a comprehensive program, and you get sober. Now you're sober, and you're 40 years old, but you're acting like you're 18. And people notice, and people say, I see this guy is 40, but he's acting like he's 18. Well, yeah, because the growth has stopped. Addiction stops growth. Well, if the enemy really wanted to get you, and he could mess you up in a lot of ways, one of the things that would be great for him to do is stop your growth. You don't grow up, okay? You don't become emotionally healthy in your spirituality. Christians are no different. You know, Christians are walking around smiling, and they're acting like everything's okay when they're just dying inside because they're not dealing with that pain, that grief, and that loss like Job did. And so there's a lot of hurting Christians that are pretending they're okay when they're not okay. Christians can be a lot like the folks in the world. So let's take a look at the book of Job. Do we dare go there? Yes, we go there because Job is a fantastic example of grief, loss, and pain, but even more so, he's a great example of how to process it. So if Job were alive today, he would be like Bill Gates, just crazy rich. His possessions were like through the roof. He would have his picture on the front cover of Forbes magazine as being one of the richest men in the world, one of the most successful men in the world. In the book of Job, chapter 1, it says that he, among all the people of the East, he was the greatest, and that he feared God, and that he obeyed God, and he loved God. In a modern day, we would see him as one of the, if not the best, but one of the top Christian leaders of our day. Job was the man. But God has a bet with Satan, and thank goodness that'll never happen for me because I'm not righteous enough to become God's bet, and I don't think you are either, so we're safe. But Job, you know, Satan goes, well, yeah, you bless him, and he worships you because, you know, you just bless his socks off. And so they have a bet that if God takes the blessings away, then Job will turn the other way. And so Job's the bet. I'm so glad I'm never going to be the bet. So this stuff begins to happen. He's invaded by an enemy. Lightning strikes. A tornado raises its ugly head, and he loses everything. He is reduced to poverty. His 10 children die, and he is now in a garbage dump trying to figure all this out. And then he gets up and he's got boils from his feet to his head, and the boils get infected. His eyes are infected. His whole body is infected. It's just ravaging his body. So not only does he lose everything, he loses his health. And his friends are telling him, dude, you did something. He goes, well, if I did, what did I do? And they go, you reap what you sow, Job. So now he's battling his best three friends, and they're sure that he's done something horrible, but he's saying, I haven't. And they think he's a liar, so he's going through that with his three best friends, Eli, Zoe, and Bill. Have you ever had a friend like that they just make you feel worse? These three best friends are making Job even feel worse. And then if it wasn't bad enough, his wife, his marriage, listen to what she says. Job, are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. Wow. And Job just hangs in there. And one of the things Job does is he begins to tell God how he feels. And he's holding nothing back. He's real and authentic, and he's just giving it to God. And God doesn't hit him in the head with a lightning bolt. If you look at the book of Psalms, like one of the things I do is in my journaling time, I'll go to Psalms to look for scriptures on praise and worship. But what you'll find is 2/3 of the Psalms are laments. That's complaining to God. It's telling God how things aren't the way they should be. And Jeremiah even wrote a whole book of the Bible called Lamentations. And one of the things that you realize is that David got real and authentic with God, and he's railing against God, to God, complaining to God. And if you were David's friend, you might get away from David, because surely a lightning bolt's coming, because this guy is letting God have it. And he doesn't. God doesn't. And I guess it's because this is all I can figure out is David was a man after God's own heart. That's what God said about David. He got real and he got authentic with God. And you would only do that if you have a relationship with God. And so it's okay to be real and authentic. That's what I'm learning as I read. If the book of Psalms is a book to teach us how to pray, then it's okay to pray and lament or complain or ask questions and be frustrated and be angry. You just got to be real. One of the most important things that you have to do when you go through pain and loss and grief is you have to stay in the truth. We like denial, don't we? But the whole Christian walk is a commitment to truth. What did Jesus say? If you know the truth will set you free. So we have to stay in the truth. But the book of Job is a lot of Job just crying out to God and really saying, hey, I don't get it, and what are you doing to me? And this just doesn't seem fair. But here's the point. Job was able to get real. How, if all that would have happened to you, if you just lose everything, I mean, all your possessions, your health, your children, your wife is just so ticked at you, she just wants you to curse God and die, how would you have responded to that kind of pain and grief and loss? Now, here's what I know about you. If you've lived, which you are living, you have experienced loss. Like I told you, I do a lot of celebration of life services, and let me tell you what's not at a funeral. Not one time at any funeral I have done, and I've done over 250, there is no U-Haul at a funeral. They're just never there because you can't take it with you. So the book of Job, I think, is written for us because we're all a Job. You and me, we are a Job. Here's why. We're going to lose everything. You're not going to take anything with you. You will lose all your possessions. You will lose your health. All the dreams you had, all the hopes you had, you're going to lose them because you're going to die. Nobody gets out of here. Everybody dies. Now here's the good news, okay? In the Christian life, without a crucifixion, there isn't a resurrection. Without death, there isn't life. And Jesus said, unless this kernel of wheat dies in the ground, it can't produce, the hundreds and thousands of kernels of wheat. So this seed has to die for there to be life. That's the Christian way. Death leads to life. And so it's good to read the book of Job, and God gave us the book of Job to help us understand that we're all Job. We're all going to lose it all. And how are we going to deal with that? How do you deal with that? That's a really, really good question. Rate your pain management. How do you manage your pain? 1 to 5. 5, you stay in it, you wait, let God show you what's going on. Or 0, you're running to your old-fashioned vanilla ice cream created by Tillamook. And that's kind of a safe example, isn't it? Okay, so there's 5 ways that Job dealt with grief, loss, and pain, and we are to learn from this. Number 1 is that Job paid attention. He didn't go to denial. He didn't go to intellectualizing. I mean, he knew he was in it, and he was paying attention. And again, the thing that we see in Job is that Job told God exactly what he was feeling. And so he's paying attention. Okay, God, you're obviously doing something. I'm not sure exactly what you're doing, but you have my attention. And again, he got real and authentic with God because he had relationship. I don't like this. You're not going to like this. This is what Job did. He waited. Wait in the confusion in between. I don't know about you, but I hate to wait. God says yes. Sometimes God says no to my prayers. I'd rather have him sometimes say no than wait. Wait. And so now, rather than run from the pain, we step into the pain. I was talking to someone who had this horrific childhood and so much pain. I mean, if you were to hear her story, you would probably begin to weep. It's just horrific. And I said, how did you get through all that pain? And she said, I knew Jesus was there. And she said, I knew I could talk to him. And I was like, wow. And so through all that, he was there and you could talk to him. Yeah. And she said this, she said, I can't explain it. And I get that. How could you explain that? But she knew this. She knew Jesus was there, and she knew that she could talk to him. And he never left her, never forsaked her. Just a horrible story, gang. Horrible. But she got through it. Wait in the confusion in between. Don't run and get numb. Don't use your coping behaviors to get out of it. Stay in it. Who does that? Who does that? Job does that. He's just waiting to see, God, what's going on? And for some people, we run after the sun. This is a great quote in the book. We run after the sun, trying to catch up to the light, to stay in the light. And the book says what you should do is turn east rather than run west to try to stay in the sunlight. You walk east into the darkness and then meet the sunrise. Again, who does that? But this is what we have to do. We have to stay in the pain. We have to wait on God. And Psalms 37:7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him." Number 3, embrace the gift of limits. Okay, yeah, we got limits. And why does God want us to do this? 3 reasons. 1, it keeps us grounded when we embrace our limits. It humbles us, and it makes us team up. And those are three God things that He wants us to do. He wants us to stay grounded, He wants us to stay humble, and He wants us to team up. One of the things that I grieved, one of the things that I battled, it was so hard, is I had a loved one who has a very big time addiction. And I've been taught my whole life that you perform, you work hard, you goal set, you do things, and everything I did didn't work to help my loved one get set free. Nothing worked. And I tried everything, and nothing worked. And then I got into Al-Anon, and I got a sponsor, and I learned that I had no power over my loved one's addiction. I had nothing. And that was hard to go there. I grieved it. For me, it was grief and loss. It was pain to say I got nothing. And so finally, I had to admit I got nothing. I had to admit my weaknesses. I was powerless over my loved one's addictions. And I just gave it to God. So here's how it went. Those of you who have been through recovery, you know this like the back of your hand. Admitted that I was powerless. I had to embrace my limits and my weaknesses. I am powerless over this addiction. 2, came to believe that only God could restore me, and turned it over to Him. That was some real growth through loss, through grief, through pain, and it's a gift. And again, like my friend, I can't explain it, but it was a breakthrough, and my soul was enlarged. My life became way better. I became more loving. I became more patient through surrender. So we have a lot of limitations. One of the things they say in recovery is, there's a God and you ain't Him. And I think sometimes we try to play God. We try to go around God and do it our way. And I loved what Nathan said. Hey God, I have a wonderful plan for my life, and you need to catch up. And we are very, very limited. In gifting, you might have 10 gifts, I might have 3, but we don't have all the gifts, and we definitely have weaknesses. New Bridges was rocking. We planted New Bridges in 1999, and everything was working. Lots of people were coming to Christ, tons of baptisms, people were growing, giving, getting. I mean, it was just wonderful. And then it wasn't. Year 15, we just started to decline. And I was bumming, and my ego couldn't take it, and I was angry, and I was frustrated, and I was trying to use coping behaviors to get rid of pain, and it was just no good, lousy, rotten season in my life. And what I had to do is I had to get real, and I had to get honest. And the problem wasn't them, the problem was me. And what was going on was that I was trying to be an administrative pastor, a maintenance pastor, and I suck at that. And people got it. I wasn't creating, I wasn't outreaching. So I became miserable. People picked up on that. And then people were leaving. Lots of people were leaving. And so here's what happened. I fired myself, and I hired a guy named Kevin Beeson, who was really good at what I wasn't good at. But here's the rest of the story. When I got real and honest, and when I had to embrace my gifts and my limitations, and I had to climb the ladder of humility, I was humbled. Man, I was so humbled. But I fired myself, and I hired Kevin Beeson. Now, that isn't exactly how it worked. I know you know that. But we merged, and Kevin became the head pastor. And I got to go plant churches. And I was set free. And so rather than stay in that pain, that grief, and that loss, God just was so gracious to teach me, humble me, and get me in the right place. And I am forever grateful for that. And then the thing is like, I wish that I could learn it during it. You know, like, what are you, like Job, paying attention, what are you doing, God? That I could learn it right in the midst of it. But what God does is, after I come out of it, then He shows me what He was teaching me. And I kind of argue with Him, why didn't you tell me? And He goes, because you weren't ready and you wouldn't listen. And so when you go through the pain, the grief, and the loss, what happens is you grow and you're changed. You're never the same. And what was really, really bad, what felt like death, was life. And what felt like life, the maintenance, the comfort zone, what felt like life was death. And so God, because He loves me so much, because God loves you so much, He just won't let you stay there. And so it was through grief and loss and pain that God got me where He wanted me to go. 4 in this process is climbing the ladder of humility. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the peacemakers. When you come to a dinner, don't sit at the head table, sit at the back. Because if you sit at the head, they might say, hey, you need to move. This isn't your chair. Or if you sit in the back, they might bring you up. But the lesson is stay humble. God loves humble. Humble to God is the most attractive thing. Growing up as an athlete, nobody taught you to be humble. That's not what they teach. Win. Be better than. But God's way is upside down. Be humble. 4, in the process of growing in your emotional spirituality, is climb the ladder of humility. Let the old birth the new. The merger between New Bridges and River City was so good. Was it hard? Oh yeah, it was really hard. But the old gave way to the new, and there is just so much life in me now, and great things are happening because we're working together. We are better together. Let the old birth the new. John 12:24 says this, very truly I'll tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed, but it dies. If it dies, it produces many seeds. Crucifixion, resurrection, death to life. That's the Christian way. I had front row seats to one of the most amazing things, and it's the story of Jackson Baldwin. I think Jackson came to us at New Bridges at like age 7, and he was in Sunday school, and Susan was asking the kids what they were thankful for. And she said, you know what, why don't you come up and write this on this dry eraser board with a marker. And Jackson came up and he wrote the word cancer. And Jackson had cancer. and it was an aggressive, very aggressive kind of cancer. And Susan had to say, well, Jackson, why do you write cancer as something you're thankful for? And this is what he said. He said, it's brought my mom and dad closer to God. My family comes to church now, and my family is learning about Jesus, and I'm really thankful for that because I'm learning about Jesus. Well, Jackson fought an amazing battle. I just don't have enough time to tell you this amazing story, but I am going to give you the highlights. So Jackson was really, really sick, and he battled this cancer, and it, like I said, it was aggressive, and everybody is doing all these nice things for Jackson. And he said, you know, Mom and Dad, he watched the movie Pay It Forward, and he said, you know, could we do something for some other kids that are, you know, here this kid is literally dying of cancer, and he's thinking of other kids. And for his birthday, he wants to do a fundraiser for another kid who is struggling like him. And so before his birthday, he passed away. He was so Jesus-like. Again, I can't explain it. He was just so Jesus-like. And he wanted to do something for another kid. So he passes away, and now there's a birthday party, like just maybe, I think, a week from his passing. And what are they going to do at this birthday? And they had a fundraiser. The first Jackson Baldwin Pay It Forward fundraiser. And they raised a bunch of money. And the kid that got the money, I know him. He plays football with my grandson. I just watched him get an interception on homecoming night. He was homecoming prince. And this is a kid who wasn't supposed to make it. He had a rare blood disease, but it was Jackson Baldwin Foundation that provided the funding for him to get the treatment that he needed. Since then, the Jackson Baldwin Foundation, the Jackson Baldwin Pay It Forward Foundation, has raised so much money. They have helped so many kids. I mean, I think they've given away $1 million to kids in need. It's probably more than that. I apologize if I don't have those numbers right, but I know it's just a mega amount of money. But here's the thing, the most important thing to tell you today. As we talk about grief and loss and pain, I was leading worship. I don't do that now, but I got to lead worship back in the day. And I was leading worship, and I looked out into the crowd, and there was Stacy and Scott, Jackson's parents. And they had their hands raised, and they were worshiping. And it was as if they were saying what Job said in the book of Job. And he said, though you slay me, I will serve you and I will love you. Can't explain it. Only God could do that. And I was embarrassed because I was mad at God. I was furious with God. Like, I just, my pain management was horrible when it came to Jackson's death. But I was so humbled when I saw those parents worshiping God. Though you slay me, I will worship you. And then they took the most horrible thing. I can't think of a more horrible thing than to lose a child and turn it to good. Raising so much money to help so many kids. And I've gotten to take the baskets to families that are hurting. And I've been able to present those baskets and the gift cards and the encouragement. And all I can say is, wow, 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 wow. Early on in the sermon, I asked you, if you were Job, how would you respond? Let me ask you this. If you were Scott and Stacy Baldwin, how would you respond? And by the way, there's a little brother in this story named Wyatt, and he's so awesome. He's so awesome. Turned out so good. He's a great man. And I got to mention Wyatt because he was all a part of that story, and Grandma and Grandpa too. That's what we got to do. I wish I could explain it to you better. But all I know is that you gotta pay attention. You have to definitely wait in the confusion of all of it. Don't run to your number. Don't run to your pacifier, your blankie. Stay in it. Accept your weaknesses, your limitation, and then climb the ladder of humbleness. And last but not least, let the old birth the new. If you do, this is what will happen. Your heart will expand. My friend John Michael says it best. He says, when I go through grief and loss and pain, my heart expands. I can't explain it. I love better. I love more. I'm more loving. And that's what it's all about. It's all about relationship. It's all about loving God. And I'm not talking about just being religious. I'm talking about falling in love with God. And as a result, you love other people. That's where we want to be. And crazy that it's grief and loss and pain that gets us there. There's a dumb song back in the 70s that I used to sing. I heard it. I hope I get this stuck in your head. It goes, there's one thing you need to know. It's that hurting only makes you grow. Put it on the Lord, and He'll make an open door. So, if we want to grow emotionally healthy in our spirituality, we have to learn how to process the pain, the grief, and the loss like Job. To be like the Baldwins. The story is easy to tell. Bet it was harder to walk out, huh? Way harder to walk out. But they did. And I'm so thankful that they did. And I'm so thankful for Job in the book of Job. Can you believe I said it? I'm thankful for the book of Job because it shows us how to grieve, how to go through loss, how to deal with our pain, because God's good. Pray with me. Lord, I can't believe I'm saying this to you, but I am. Thanks for the book of Job. See, we're all Job. I get it. We're all Job. We're all going to lose everything. In your economy, death equals life. Crucifixion means resurrection. Help us to learn that and to walk that out. God, I thank you that you are in it with us. Through that pain, through that grief, through that loss, you are always with us, and we can always talk to you. Sometimes we can't explain it, but the reality is you are with us. You'll never leave us, never forsake us. So God, when we go through this, it just feels like it feels so hard and it hurts so bad. And literally, God, we think we're going to die. If we stay in it, we think we're going to die, but we're not. Because you're in it, and you will expand our love. You will expand our souls. You will expand our hearts through grief, through loss, through pain. Thank you for that. Help us. We need you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We are grateful for the Word of God and thrilled that you joined us today. We hope you experience God's presence and will continue to experience Him throughout this week. If this is your first time checking out RCC Online, please text RCC New to 97000. And if you surrendered your life to Jesus and want to know more about walking with Him, please text RCC Life to 97000. You can also stick around and chat with your online host. Have a great week.